You're listening to Speaking Stellar Girl with Teri an interview series that inspires women to live their most stellar life. Teri is the co-founder of the Stellar Girl movement, and she is sitting down with women all over the world to hear about the key moments in their lives and how they live boldly, compassionately, and ultimately became a stellar girl.
Welcome to Speaking Stellar Girl. I'm your host, Teri, and I'm thrilled today to have Julie Gile joining me. Julie is a visual brand strategist, combining brand storytelling with photography to create meaningful connections for trailblazing brands. Julie accidentally discovered photography after a major life-changing event left her feeling numb. Photography became the snorkel allowing her to breathe and a way to exist in a world where emotions got too messy to understand. Now Julie is doing what she loves. She is a storyteller through her lens. We have so much to cover, my dear friend. I can't wait to dive into your journey. Welcome to Speaking Stellar Girl.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. It's so nice to see you.
I am beyond thrilled to tell your story on Speaking Stellar Girl. Just so all of our listeners know out there, we met through your business and your photography business, and I'm honored to call you a dear friend. And I've been wanting to do this with you since I've met you, and after I've learned so much more about you, even more so now. And I want to talk about how you discovered photography and what that moment was like for you and why you're in this business now.
Thank you so much. Yes, so at the time, everything was going great. This was about 5 years ago, and everything was going great in my life. I was a landscape designer. That was my passion. I had worked in the industry for such a long time, had a degree in it, and everything came to a screeching halt, as which happens in lots of people's lives. My brother we were driving home actually from the emergency room that day. We thought my son had a stroke, but it really wasn't that. So, and then I checked my phone and I see an email, and it was entitled "It's Over," and it was from my brother. And it said in the email that he had ended his life and ended his soon-to-be ex-wife's life. And I was freaking out, basically. Didn't know what to do. Tried to call 911, but we were in California. He was in Minnesota. I couldn't figure out how to get a hold of anybody. I was calling my parents. I was just in a panic and felt very helpless. But long story short, it was a mess. He invited the soon-to-be former ex-wife in and ended up stabbing her multiple times. And then she grabbed the knife and stabbed him. Then she came to and ran outside and called 911, and he went upstairs and tried very hard to end his life, which was very scary. It ended up that everybody was okay, but as you can just imagine, the things that happened after that were difficult. I immediately jumped on a plane. There was media involved. There was police, there were court action, rushed to the hospital. We weren't allowed to talk to my brother to know if he was okay. It was a lot.
It was a life-changing, upside down, as you said, the most numb you've ever felt in your life, and helpless. You were far away.
Yeah.
And another thing we need to, address is the fact that you can't interchange states with 911. That'll be another topic, because that you couldn't get a hold of anyone in Minnesota while you were in California. So
I was calling friends and I was calling people to try to get them to call 911, but it was like Labor Day weekend, so everyone was outside and not with their phones, and it was crazy. It was definitely, I was numb. It was hard watching my parents go through the trauma. It was hard not knowing what to say. I was afraid of being judged by my friends, because my brother we were very, very close. He was godfather of my son, and I was godmother of his children. I felt like I did something wrong because I didn't know. I didn't see it coming.
Everyone in this horrific story survived, physically survived.
Yes.
So his wife survived, he survived,
Yes.
and you survived.
Yes.
Physically. Something emotionally is no longer there. The relationships, and it must have been horrific reading that letter, knowing that, the week before prior, you were speaking to your brother like it was, what are you up to? And then this life altering, mind blowing event happened.
Yeah, we were up at the cabin together at my mom's cabin the week before. Everything seemed fine.
So at this moment, your brother is now incarcerated in Minnesota.
Yes.
Your sister-in-law, is raising their 3 children
Yes.
in Minnesota.
Yes.
And has she physically healed from the trauma?
Yes. She has physically healed and she is doing great. She's been well supported with therapy and is doing a great job supporting the children as well, through a lot of their questions. And we've mended a lot of things between the two of us and recognize between her and I that me being involved with the children has also been a really good blessing. So,
And they look to you for support and to talk about their father and what happened. Do they understand?
Yeah. And I think I understand how you can love somebody. Like I love their dad, but he can't be in my life and I can't be in his right now. And because there's some toxicity there, and the children, I think, understand that better. Like we can love our dad, but maybe he's not the best person to be in our life right now. And that's how I try to relate to them about it. It's not that I'm angry at him or that I don't forgive him or anything like that. It's just that there's nothing. I love him, but we can't be in the same physical location or in a relationship right now. It's just it's toxic.
And it's too much to heal at this moment.
That's a very good way of putting it.
And what was the moment like when you opened up that email and you read what was supposed to be his suicide letter? And I mean, the emotions that must have been running through your body, through your veins, through your heart and head at that time. What was in the letter that you can share with us? Enough that you can share.
I was shaking. I was just shaking. My whole body was shaking reading it. My eyes were shaking trying to read it. My husband was driving next to me and he's like, well, stop reading it. And I felt like because I thought it was happening live as I was reading it. That's kind of what the letter made it seem like. But he basically just said the pain is too much. The pain is too much to have. And I don't want to put my kids through a divorce, and I don't want them to have a split home. And I want my kids to be with you, Julie. And I just can't do the pain anymore.
And he wanted the kids to be with you.
Yeah.
His sister, and he has 3 kids.
Yes.
And what are their ages now?
They are 15, 11, and 9. Yeah. They were very young at the time.
And to add to everything that you went through 5 years ago, your mom passed a few years later after that happened as well. She moved out, as I understand, to California with you and your family.
Yes.
And that's what brought you to photography. That's what brought you to process what happened with your family and to capture moments with your mom and your family.
Yeah, so it was crazy because, as I'm sure many people can, identify with, when you're going through something huge like that, you just shut down, right? You shut down, and you can go through the motions of, making the dinner or taking things out of the refrigerator, but I was short. I was snapping with people. I didn't want to be, touched like affectionately. I didn't want to invest energy in friendships. I couldn't put any energy out.
Of
And
course.
shut down. And I had happened to sign up for a photography class. It was called Montography. And
Look at your smile.
I know. I felt like I felt like motherhood was slipping through my fingers because I couldn't be present in motherhood with my own child because my emotions were so shut down. There was just like a trauma response happening in my body, which I now understand. But I'd signed up for this photography class thinking like, well, maybe like I can figure out how to do something that I can preserve motherhood.
And save yourself.
And save myself. Yeah. So the first day, the exercise was go outside your house, walk 250 feet in one direction and stop, half turn to the left and make a picture. And I was like, okay, I can do exactly that. I don't have to interact with a human. I don't have to connect with anybody. I don't have to put any energy towards anybody else. So I did it. I walked out in the woods and I stopped.
Tell me what you saw.
I saw it was a wooden fence post, an old wooden fence post that was like broken and barely, hanging on its side. And then there was a vine wrapped around it and there was barbed wire and there was one red leaf everything was green, but there was one red leaf just hanging there. And that was what I took a picture of, was that one red leaf. And I just felt like when I looked at the back of the camera that all of a sudden it was this release. It was an ability to exist in life and be present in life without having to collapse emotionally. And I became really obsessed with it because it felt like I was able to take some of the steam out of the boiling pot.
And through that photograph, you have a story in itself. And if you walk out of your house for 200 feet and look to the left, and that's what you saw. And somehow that one red leaf, the broken fence, the barbed wire wrapped around it, was exactly how you were feeling and exactly the moment that you were in at that time. And that exercise, in a way, saved your soul and saved you.
Yeah, definitely. And I've reached out to that teacher and I've told her that actually, and she was blown away. But yes. And then I remember, being at my dad's house where we were staying and, assignment would be take a picture of the mess in your house or something. And I was like in the playroom with my son and there were news, vans and stuff outside. There was media. And I remember like closing the curtains and just creating this creative zone where I was taking these pictures and like being part of motherhood and like capturing the mess. And I started living when I picked up that camera. I started living again. I started seeing the world in a different way. And it allowed me to still guard my emotions until I was able to start healing, but at least I was able to be alive.
And that one red leaf. And when we think of a leaf, we think of a red leaf and it falls to the ground because it's dying. And we think of the barbed wire and the fence of your life. And I've told you this and I'll tell you again that I think you should write your story and write a book. And that photo should be the cover of your book. And the title, One Red Leaf. And I feel like the story needs to be told in a way that's not just a 30-minute podcast that is going to be the story of Julie and her family and how your photography brought you back from a darkness that no one else, except for people who've maybe experienced what you've gone through, can even understand. So let's turn this to your photography and how you took this class and then captured all these moments with your mom and your babies.
Yeah. So then lo and behold, my mom, was failing through her cancer and ended up moving in with us. And we had a 3-year-old at the time. And I was also pregnant with my second, which was really hard because I knew the 3-year-old wouldn't remember her. And I knew my soon to be born son would never meet her. So again, we're faced with this life situation where how can I exist in this without collapsing? So I took out my camera and I started taking pictures of my son with my mom and her hand on my belly. And, you know, the way she used to just tuck my son under the covers and like let him watch TV, you know, and like hide him under the bed, and all of those things that, you know, he may not have the mental memories, but he has the pictures, and we talk the stories now and stuff. And it truly allowed me to keep her alive a lot longer than I would have without any pictures. And it also allowed me, because I was also the caretaker. So I was in charge of, you know, the doctor's appointments and the traveling and, you know, getting her here and there and arranging for wheelchairs and the medicines and stuff. So I was so involved in that I almost didn't want to be involved emotionally. I was trying not to be, because it was so hard, that the camera like allowed me to get in that middle space and still live there, still be there, and then also just keep the memories. It was therapy. It was medicine for me. It was therapy. And I honestly say it was a snorkel, because I was able to breathe when I had that kind of assignment to capture memories, images, people, fingers, wrinkles, blue eyes, all those things.
All those beautiful moments.
Yeah.
And now you moved from California and relocated out to a spot where you probably never imagined your life being.
Nope.
Nope. But here you are, and you have created this photography business out in the Midwest, storytelling, creating brand strategy, but not just taking pictures and not just being on an assignment. You have this gift, and this gift that you have forever, and that you've captured so many incredible moments of your own personal life through it that has saved you. And now you're sharing your gift with so many people, so many brands, so many, you don't just shoot places and things, you shoot food and clothing, and you actually capture a story's brand and you tell it through your images. So let's talk about your process from how you begin to create that imagery in your head and what that brand will look like through your visual imageries. Because we always say we hate pictures of people standing there posing, talking, you know, just standing side by side, arm in arm, and they take a picture, and then that's not at all what you do.
Definitely not. That is the anti what I do. I think the thing that I realized about my own journey was the harder I guarded my secret, you know, what happened with my brother, the harder I guarded it was my own fear of people judging me. And the harder I guarded it, the harder it was on me, because it started affecting my body. It started affecting my health. It started affecting, you know, my relationships with people. So I had to really figure out how to own that story. I had to really figure out how to say, it's okay that I have scars.
Yes.
And that was really hard. It still is hard to this day to be that way. But the more and more I venture out into the world with this scar, I realize there are a lot of people with other scars, right? And isn't that the goal, is to just realize that you have a village, you have a tribe, that other people have been through stuff that scars them too. And man, when people learn lessons, they get inspired to help other people learn lessons. Okay, so here are the brands. These are the brands. They're not just businesses selling products, but there's actually more often than not, I find with the companies I work with, especially those trailblazing brands, is they're out there to impact. And the reason they're motivated to impact is because they've been impacted. Mm-hmm. So here we are with a story that's like nobody else's, because you're guiding this experience, you're guiding this customer on a journey that you're trying to make an impact. And that's where I start with that brand strategy of like, what makes you different? Why did you get into this? And sometimes people just give me, they don't know if they want to get into the nitty with me yet.
Until
they'll say something like, oh, I want to make an impact, or, oh, you know, I had a child who was adopted, so I wanted to start, you know, a nonprofit for adoptees. But if you really say, okay, the next step is to say, well, okay, tell me about your favorite client story. Like I had a mortgage person the other day. So I said, what do you love about this? I love educating people. I love people to feel empowered, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, that's great. So tell me about your favorite client story. And she paused, she sat back, she took a deep breath, and she told me her favorite client story, and she teared up, and she was really moved. She thanked me so much for asking her that. And then she said, I told her, I'm like, so this is not about mortgages, is it? This is about helping people. And she teared up and she's like, yes. I'm like, well, so that's your brand, honey. It's not educating people. It's not the nitty gritty. I don't want to go to a mechanic and figure out how you're going to replace my light bulb. Like, I want to know, I don't want to know the nitty gritty of what you do. I want to know why you do it. And that's where this brand photography starts from. That's where this brand photography is.
And I'm going to quote you because you said something to me that I say to myself every single day. You say, everyone has a story. The story needs to be told in a way that is true and authentic. But where's your destination?
Yeah.
You said those words, where's your destination?
Where's your destination?
And so you create that destination for all of these brands that you work with so beautifully, that are repeat clients, that because their businesses are evolving. And something you've come up with recently is where you take that story and where it started, and then a few months later you shoot again and you create their story where it's at now, and then you come back and you, like, every few months you're still telling their story. And that is very unique to this business, because people will hire a photographer, shoot what they shoot, and there are good photographers, but no one connects and stays connected like you do to your clients and to your brands.
Thank you. It's something I work really, really hard at, and I make sure to always come back to that as my core focus value for every decision I make. But I really also just challenge my clients to say, okay, where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years? That's what we want to shoot for. Because so much entrepreneurs, especially in businesses and brands, they want to shoot for what we're doing really good right now. And it's like, that's great, but you're going to grow out of those pictures. What do you want to grow into? Right? If this is marketing material, we need to figure out, what's your destination? What are you growing into? And that's what we want to start showing.
That's incredible. Your story is inspiring was inspiring to me and still is. For the people listening and the Stellar Girls out there that are listening, and the men that are listening, like, I value your friendship, and you're my sing-along girl. You're my sunshine girl. And, throughout these past few months of getting to know you, you have blessed my life with so many amazing memories in such a short period of time. And I'm so glad that we found ourselves both here in this space. And, I would love to hear what you have to say to people, not me, to girls who want to get into photography, who want to get in, to an art form of expression, of healing, whether it's photography, whether it's being a writer, whether it's being a painter, whether it's being, they're sculpting, or they're creating something to help them heal. And I'd love to hear how you can inspire and tell them how they can go about starting that and doing that.
That is no doubt a game changer in my life. I had a therapist who suggested doing art therapy, and I would have never said that I'm an artist, but it changed my life. Because again, it gave me a way to communicate by drawing and scratching and sometimes ripping the paper with the charcoal pen. It gave me a way to move emotions without having to absolutely talk about it all the time. I mean, I love to talk, just ask my husband, but sometimes talking about emotions is really draining. So I would suggest to anybody who's interested in getting started with it, to sign up for a class online even, or to reach out to somebody that you admire if you're on social media, reach out to somebody that you admire and say, hey, can I do a class with you? Can I do a 1 hour, like one-on-one with you, and just see what that feels like for you? Trust that intuition, trust that gut, and just start. One thing that I did, since I tend to be very organized and I like things to have an order, I think art was hard for me to get over because I thought it should either be, a Monet that you can hang on the wall or it's garbage. But I took chalk paint and covered a canvas with it. And then I can draw and color on it and then wipe it off, and then draw and color on it and wipe it off. If I don't like something, I just wipe it off, and it's no harm, no foul. And that was really a good way for me to just get emotions out, right? Through art, was knowing that it's not permanent. That's something that to consider too.
And how can we better champion these women these days?
Oh man, I would say I've really had a lot of deep conversations with my nieces and other young women in my life about intuition and following your gut. I mean, I don't think that was something I was really on my radar until after this incident with my brother, how really important your intuition is in your gut. And when we can't be there to protect them all the time from all the things in the world that are going to scare them, I think that having conversations about, I was walking down the street and this guy, I saw him looking at me and tracking me, and my gut just told me that something was wrong. So I switched sides of the street, and I got my mace out, and, I ended up, I was right. He did tap me on the shoulder, and it was really scary. And my nieces were like watching me tell this story. And I was like, but my gut told me. And then they're like, well, when else did your gut tell you something? And I mean, just training and having the conversation as part of like daily connection with children, young boys and women, but that your gut is a force.
Yeah.
It's a voice, it's a force, it's a guide, it's a compass, it's your protector. It's real. The more we can normalize that as part of conversation, I think will empower people, women especially, that following your gut is a great thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it's something, as we, women that have matured, I guess I'll say, know more and are starting to become more friendly with our intuition. But I think that intuition for young children is something huge to form. And what's the word I want to say? Not just form their intuition, but recognize and value their intuition.
Acknowledge it.
Acknowledge it. Yeah. And validate it. Like if we can validate a 7-year-old girl's intuition that she doesn't want to hug that man because he's got a grizzly beard and he's just different than somebody that she normally sees, that's a good thing. Right?
100%. What's next for you, Julie?
What's next? Oh, goodness. Next? Yeah. I love this journey that I'm on, connecting with brands, helping people feel confident in their own stories. I love bringing that to those brands and making them more authentic. This year is exciting. We're bringing on video, which is going to be a whole new level of storytelling, and really transitioning my clients to, some are monthly right now, some are quarterly, and some are twice a year, which is great because then we're starting to look at analytics. We're, refining our process with clients as we keep moving forward. And then a lot of self-care, because we deserve that too as women entrepreneurs and as part of protecting our own creativity.
And what about traveling? Do you have any where you want to go?
Oh my goodness. I want to go to a hut on the water in Bali.
That doesn't sound like a bad place
That's where I want to go.
That's a bad place to be.
Yes.
You have touched so many with your story. You have long, I feel like we need a part 2.
Okay.
And we can, I would love to, talk about where this all sits now with you, with your healing and your journey and your destination and where you find yourself. Because, we just touched the surface this morning, well, this afternoon or whenever we're listening to this, but recording it this morning on an unusually cloudy, rainy day.
Yes.
And I thank you so much for being with me this morning and with me always.
Thank you. Thank
And
you
I'm,
for, you were the one who grabbed the red leaf idea and mirrored it back at me. So thank you for seeing that and for hearing that and for holding space as I told my story, because that's incredibly important part of my healing.
well, I'm blessed to be in your life, and you're my stellar girlfriend out here. And if we say the word stellar, just to finish off this last question before we sign off this morning, what does stellar mean to you? And adding the word girl to it, what does that mean to you?
Stellar means to me somebody that shines light into the dark cracks.
Well said.
Yes.
And thank you for that. And thank you for sharing everything you've spoken today. And you're on the path of taking that video camera, and creating all the amazing stories you've done throughout this area. And we will all hear more from Julie, and we can find Julie at juliemgilephotography.com, and we'll make sure that even more people hear your story so they can learn, be inspired, and celebrate you and your process, and others can heal and work through what comes to them with photography and art. And so thank you so much for being on Speaking Stellar Girl this morning, and we'll see you on the other side.
Thank you, Teri. This has been incredible.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that bell icon to be notified of new episodes. To learn more about the Stellar Girl movement, please visit us at stellargirl.com.